It is 1:50 and I'm about to film for you guys because that's how much I care. But today I'm going to go over how exactly to make good Anki cards, and I'm going to do that by showing you my own Anki cards. And hopefully that would provide you some insight into how you can make some dank Anki cards. This video is not teaching you how to use Anki. That's chump change. That was discussed in the previous video. It's linked right there. Watch that one first. But if you already watched that video, you know how to make Anki cards, and you want to know how to make good ass Anki cards, high yield Anki cards. That's what this video is about. So let's do it. So here's my Anki. As always, I think establishing credibility is really important because this is what differentiates the stuff you hear from the stuff that's really important. So as I showed you, this is my daily average of reviews. I do 632 reviews a day at least. That's my average. And I've done a streak for the last 162 days. So that just goes to show you that I've had days where I've done none before 162, and the average is still 132 reviews a day, which just goes to show you how much Anki I do. Now already today, it's 1:53 a.m. and I've done 219 cards, and I still have 727 as I'm about to show you. So this is my one legend deck. Pro tip, if you want a deck to be at the top, label it with a 1, so that way it moves to the top. And more importantly, all of these other decks that you see, these are not actually decks that I use. I only use with this one main deck. And notice how within this deck I have an insane level of organization, and this level of organization I've gone over before in another Anki video, which you should look up there to access. But anyway, now we're going to go over how I make some of these cards, and the best way to show you this is by actually walking you through the way that I make my cards. So I want to go ahead and show you now. So this one says leiomyosarcomas look like leiomas, so how would you tell them apart? And notice how I always have a question and then I have an answer. Usually both the question and the answer are relatively short, and more important than that, in this case, I actually have a specification. It says X2, which means I'm looking for 2 reasons. It's very important that when you ask a question, you specify afterwards that if there's not a direct answer, like if I asked what is the powerhouse of the cell, the answer is very obviously mitochondria. But if I asked what is the meaning to the world, that's so open-ended that I don't even know where to start. So it's important to add in modifiers here. So in this case, X2 tells me that there's 2 reasons why leiomyosarcomas are different from leiomyomas. And in this case, 1 is that leiomyosarcomas happen postmenopausally, and 2 is that leiomyosarcomas, unlike leiomyomas, are actually hemorrhagic. So notice here, that's actually the answer. I press good, I move on. So here's another question. So it says, in what zone of the prostate do you get benign prostatic hyperplasia? I know that the answer here is actually the peripheral zone. So here's the answer. Oh, so notice right there that I actually got that wrong. So first of all, whenever I get a question wrong, I'm going to click again on it because I want to see it again. But notice how here the answer is transition zone. But also notice how I have a slide on prostate anatomy. This is what separates, I think, really good Anki people from people who don't know how to use Anki well. A person who didn't know how to use Anki well would just have wrote, what zone does BPH happen in? The answer would have been transition, and that's it. In this case, it's really important for you to have context, because when you have context and you add a slide here, it really makes it better to understand. Notice how this slide already has already shows the peripheral zone, it already shows the transition zone, and then it shows this other zone. And the point is that if I don't know the answer, like I just did not know the answer, there's enough information on this card right now for me to relearn the concept. The problem with a lot of Anki users that I see is that they just have a question or an answer, and sometimes they don't even have a question and answer. Sometimes they have a closed deletion in a sentence, and that's not even the best way to do it, because then all you're doing is you're just learning the word that's in the blank. In this case, I'm actually answering a question, so that way when this question comes up on the wards, aka clerkships, when someone asks me this question, I think about this flashcard, I know the answer. But more importantly, when I don't know the answer when I'm doing this flashcard, I can relearn it right here because the slide is right here. So I didn't know this, so I'm going to press again. But the point was, I had enough information there that I'm like, oh, transition zone, that's in the middle, peripheral zone's on the outside. Oh, I got it. This is where I learned that from. And that was all in the card. Okay, next question. The pudendal nerve S2 to S4 provides these 2 things: sensory innervation to the blank and motor innervation to the external urethral and anal sphincters. So I know this provides sensory innervation to the perineum. And notice how this one is a bit different. This is actually from the Zonky deck. So whenever I use pre-made cards, which I do use, I use them from a Zonky deck, which I'm going to go over a bit later in another video. But the point is, in this case, it's the perineum. But notice, again, that even though I have the answer right here, I also have enough context below that I can actually understand what is the perineum. And also there's a nice mnemonic right here that comes with some of these pre-made cards, and it says S2, S4, keep the penis off the floor, which is what the pudendal nerve does because it's responsible for motor innervation to the penis and also sensory innervation. But the point is, look at this. This is actually a part of first aid that's already posted here, and that's the benefit of some of these pre-made decks that whenever I use the pre-made decks, I make sure that they have enough stuff here that I actually added this picture in myself so I knew what exactly it was referring to. So I know the answer here, but again, notice how this whole card, if I didn't know the answer, has enough information that I could relearn it on the spot, and that way I save time. Okay, this one says congenital hydrocele involve fluid collection in the blank. And again, this is not a question and answer. This is just to fill in the blank. I do these sometimes. Most of the time, these are from pre-made decks. I don't like it as much when it's fill in the blank. I much rather prefer a question and answer. In this case, it should have said, where does the fluid collect in congenital hydroceles? And the answer would have been tunica vaginalis right here. So this one's a simple question and answer, simple fill in the blank that I have. And I have a few and far in between of these. A lot more of my cards are just question and answer. But this is one of the ones where you just fill in the blank. So again, here's a good one I made. It says mammography screening starts at what age? Question. The answer is actually 40, and then it happens every 2 years, I believe, but let's check. So here, 40, and then you keep going as long as you expect to live 5 or 7 years more. So this is a card I made. Notice how it's a very simple question, a very simple answer, a nice modification, and if I ever forgot, there is more information right here for me to figure it out. It says annual screening begins at 40. And then it says you should do it I think it doesn't say exactly how often you do it afterwards, but it says screening with mammography should be considered as long as the patient has a life expectancy greater than 5 to 7 years. So the point is, look at it. I have enough information here that I'm like, oh, if I did forget it, at least I have information. People don't do that. So here's another one. The blank is the functional unit of the breasts. Lobules make milk that drains via ducts to nipples. So the answer here is actually terminal duct lobular unit. And again, the answer is right here, but notice how I have references from particular resources that I use, and I posted them right here that if I ever did forget, here's what the terminal duct lobular unit is, here's an actual picture of it, and it says right here what exactly is shown. And this is how I make all my flashcards. I highly encourage you guys to do it this way. Again, I don't like the fact that this was a normal close deletion. I would have liked to have this in its own question, but if it's not, that's totally fine. Here's just how it goes. How is lactational mastitis treated? The answer here is dicloxyphilin and cephalexin, and then you're supposed to continue breastfeeding. I think those are the three that this is looking for. This is, again, a pre-made card, but notice how I've modified it because I've included a little bit of context here, and I've also included my own mnemonic. When you're breastfeeding, you may have to look at the clock, use your brain. So the clock is supposed to reference dicloxyphilin, and the cephalin, which is referenced to the brain, is referencing cephalexin. This is something I made up on my own. Okay? Whenever I make up mnemonics on my own, I also include them in here. So these cards have everything. They include everything that's going on in my brain whenever I look at this card, whenever I think of this card, and they also include backup because I know I'm stupid and I know I'm going to forget this. And I know that when I forget it, I don't want to waste my time going outside and looking it up again. I don't want to waste my time figuring out what it means. I want to have it right there, and so that way, right here, that kind of addresses all of this. It even says it's caused by Staph aureus. This is what you treat with. You should continue nursing. It has these good bullet points. And the point is, I want you guys to get that in your head. A good Anki card has a short question. It has a short answer. It has any mnemonic you're using to remember it, and it has background information. If you have those 4 things, then all you need to do is use Anki. Because a lot of people are like, how do you do 600 reviews a day? It's because all I do is Anki, because my Anki has everything I need. I rarely open up a textbook. If you looked at my desk right now, you would see no textbooks. We're in a new generation, guys. We're in the 21st century. I don't expect textbooks to be around much longer, and I expect a lot more of this to be happening because I think this is how you learn. You don't learn by reading. You learn by seeing things over and over and over again. And Anki is the way that does it, and that's why I'm such a big advocate of it. So let's just do one more so you guys get a glimpse of what I mean, and then we'll call it a day. So it says, what breast pathology are stromal tumors? So I don't actually know the answer to this one, but let's just see if what I told you is true in the sense that, look, I didn't know the answer, but there's 2 answers here, and for both of them, there's references. So now, if I wanted to relearn it, I already know fibroadenoma Oh, phyllodes tumor. Here's everything I need to know about a phyllodes tumor. Oh, fibroadenoma. Oh, it's right here. Oh, I get it. This is the terminal ductlobular unit. Oh, this is the stroma, and it's asking for stromal tumors, so it's two tumors that arise from this region right here, and therefore these are the stromal tumors that it's referring to, and specifically there's some more information on the phyllodes tumor right here. As I told you guys, for me, it's almost bulletproof, this method. I do it for everything. I modify all of my cards. Even this is actually a pre-made card. Someone made this card already. It's from a pre-made deck. I'll go into pre-made decks in a separate video. If you're interested in that, drop a comment and a like so I know. But if you're interested in that, I'll make another view. But the point is, this is a pre-made question. This was a pre-made answer. None of this was ever here. This was never here, and this was never here. Actually, this might have been here, but the point was I added this in because I was like, I don't know this. So I went to my boards and I board beyond, I added this in, and the point was now I have enough context here that I can actually answer this. But I actually didn't know the answer here, so I'm going to press again, but at least there was enough information here for me to understand it. Okay, cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Now you know a bit more about how exactly I make Anki cards, how good Anki cards are defined. If you have any more questions about Anki, link them below because I guarantee you I do so much Anki that I think I will be sharing a lot more of it because I think it's the best tool in the world and I do it all the time. So hopefully you had found that helpful. If you did, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!